Welcome to This Explainer. If you've ever felt like the unexpected is just constantly derailing your plans, well, you are definitely in the right place. Today, we're going to transform how you look at uncertainty. We're diving into project risk management using a super-structured, highly visual approach. We're going to break down the exact frameworks that top-tier project managers use, not just to survive the unknown, but to actually leverage it to their advantage. So, let's jump right in. To really wrap our heads around complex project risks, we actually need to start with something incredibly simple. Think about this. What is the actual risk of crossing the road? We make risk calculations every single day without even realizing it. Every time you stand on a curb, your brain is instantly processing data, evaluating hazards, and making a split-second go or no-go decision. Picture a totally quiet street where a bicycle passes by, maybe once every 5 minutes. The likelihood of a crash? Super low. And the consequence? Getting bumped by a bike is relatively minor. But now, contrast that with a busy highway, packed with massive, speeding trucks. Suddenly, the likelihood is way up there, and the consequence is potentially fatal. See, the risk level completely changes based entirely on just those two variables.
Which brings us to Section 1, decoding the nature of risk.
That simple street crossing analogy we just talked about, it actually scales perfectly to massive global initiatives. In professional management, risk is formally defined by a core equation. It's likelihood, so the probability of an event happening, multiplied by consequence, which is the actual impact. Whether you're dodging a semi-truck or launching a multi-million-dollar software platform, you're always calculating probability times impact. But here's a really fascinating twist. The official Project Management Institute defines project risk as an uncertain event that has a positive or negative effect on objectives. Did you catch that? Positive or negative. We almost always think of risk purely as a threat, right? But a risk can actually be a golden opportunity, something you want to proactively exploit and use to your advantage.
Moving on to Section 2, the risk management process.
To effectively wrangle both those negative threats and positive opportunities, the pros definitely don't just guess. They use a universally recognized 5-step life cycle: plan, identify, analyze, respond, and monitor. This continuous iterative loop takes risk from being just this abstract, stressful worry hanging over your head and turns it into a fully managed, trackable part of your project. Let's get into Section 3, identifying and analyzing uncertainty. So how do we actually spot these hidden variables before they completely wreck our schedule or budget? Because you can't manage what you don't know exists. Well, here are the gold standard identification techniques. First, you've got brainstorming, where literally all ideas are on the table. Then there's the Delphi technique, which is this brilliant way to get experts to reach an unbiased consensus in writing without everyone arguing in a conference room. We also use cause and effect, or fishbone diagrams, to trace symptoms right down to their roots. And finally, risk breakdown structures, which help categorize risks into nice, neat little buckets like technology, legal, or execution.
Once you've identified them, risks basically come in two analytical flavors. Qualitative analysis is essentially your quick triage. It's prioritizing risks based on probability and impact just to see what needs immediate attention. Quantitative analysis, on the other hand, goes much deeper. It uses hard data to determine the exact magnitude of the impact. This tells you precisely how much financial and schedule reserve you're going to need to lock in.
All right, Section 4, building a risk matrix.
This matrix is where that qualitative analysis truly comes to life. It's the absolute hero weapon of project risk management. By plotting our initial logic on a grid, raw data transforms into a highly actionable urgency map. You've got probability on one axis, impact on the other. A low probability, low impact event, like our passing bicycle from earlier, lands safely in the green sustainable zone. But high probability and high impact, that's our busy truck route, glowing bright red in the severe zone. It's literally the ultimate visual shorthand for your entire team. Now, if you're tracking hundreds of risks, you definitely do not want to be manually color-coding them all day. Luckily, you can build this exact logic right into an automated system. By using standard spreadsheet functions, things like index, match, and count ifs, you can create a dynamic dashboard. It instantly pulls the correct severity rating and counts your severe, moderate, or sustainable risks at any given second, so absolutely no more guessing.
Which leads us right into Section 5, strategies for risk response.
Okay, so your dashboard is glowing red with a critical risk. What now? Spotting it is only half the battle. You actually have distinct tactical menus depending on the risk type. For negative threats, you might completely avoid it, transfer it using insurance, mitigate it with safety controls, accept it if it's minor, or escalate it up to leadership. But remember those positive opportunities we talked about? Your strategy completely flips. You want to exploit the opportunity to absolutely guarantee it happens, share it with partners, or enhance the conditions to maximize your windfall.
The crucial next step, though, is measuring what actually happens after you apply those strategies. And this is known as your residual risk. It's basically the leftover probability and impact that remains once all your preventative controls are active. You're essentially checking your risk matrix again to ask, hey, did our mitigation plan actually shrink that massive truck-sized threat down to a little bicycle-sized one?
Let's wrap things up with Section 6, real-world challenges and value.
Because look, theory is one thing, but reality is a whole different ballgame. Even with these matrix superpowers, professionals still stumble into some really common traps. Often, teams will treat risk assessment as just this one-time paperwork chore they do at kickoff, rather than a living, breathing, iterative process. Or they'll obsess over the impact of a problem while completely ignoring its root cause. Sometimes they just suffer from tunnel vision, focusing so heavily on execution that they get totally blindsided by legal, environmental, or reputational risks.
As we bring this explainer to a close, we arrive at a truly fascinating paradox defined by the Project Management Institute. Take a second to really think about this. You face the absolute most risk exactly when you know the least about your project. On day one, your exposure is at its maximum, but your information is at an absolute minimum. It's incredibly daunting, for sure, but honestly, it's precisely why having a robust, structured process is just completely non-negotiable.
And that leaves us with a final thought. Knowing that uncertainty is at its absolute peak on day one, and that both massive threats and golden opportunities are hiding in the dark, how will you use these tools? How will you use the matrix, the fishbone diagrams, the residual analysis to uncover the invisible and take total control of your next big endeavor? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep planning, and I will catch you next time.